the Minnesota Vikings are broken. I don't care how you'd want to try and slice and dice this thing. They fall to 3-4, and they got their asses kicked by a Chargers team that was just able to handle them on both sides of the football, and the Vikings have no answer at the quarterback position. Like, this was a tough night for Minnesota.
Oh, it was brutal. And it felt like going into this game, it was a matchup of like, the hardest battles going to the strongest soldiers. Like both of these teams had just been so much, bitten by the injury bug, and that continued last night. But, it was a rough night for the Minnesota Vikings. I would, though, like first to give credit to the Los Angeles Chargers because they'd lost 3 of the last 4. We had been questioning to ourselves after the Chargers got off to such a fiery start to start the season. We had been questioning to ourselves, like, is this team broken? Is this Chargers team, really have what it takes to compete with the Chiefs in the division? Or is this just kind of, a middling average Chargers team? But Joe Alt comes back. He's healthy. Justin Herbert had a fantastic day, 18 to 25, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have the 1 pick. Overall, the Chargers ran the ball, I think, better than we've seen them run the ball all season long. Defensively, they were absolutely positively lights out. I mean, they held the Minnesota Vikings to less than 200 total yards, especially on the ground. And that was one of the vulnerabilities I felt like of this Chargers team was they struggled to run the ball and they also struggled to stop the run. Per next gen stats, Minnesota had 0.0% rushing success rate. Like that's actually impressive to not have a single successful rushing play in the span of a 60-minute game. So they stopped the run well and they ran the ball well. And shout out to that man right now, Kamani Vidal, 23 carries, 117 yards and a touchdown. What felt like this Chargers run game was just kind of, dead as we knew it with how many injuries they'd suffered on the season. Of course, Najee Harris went down with the injury. We saw Kamani Vidal step up and really reignite a run game that I thought was really dead to rights. Now, is this Chargers team fixed? I don't know. You beat up on a bad team, which is what the Vikings are. The Vikings are a bad team. So I can't say that, yes, definitively the Chargers are fixed and need to see them have those kinds of performances and have that kind of dominant performance against better teams. But they did what they were supposed to do. They took care of business against a bad team, a team that they should have taken care of business against. And I think I at least have this refreshed perspective and refreshed hope for what this Chargers team can be as long as Justin Herbert is playing like he was playing last night.
And I think that's part of it. Like when you talk about are the Chargers fixed, part of the answer to me to that is, well, they're getting healthy. And so I don't know that they were ever broken. They were just a shell of themselves. So now they sit at 5-3 in an AFC where that certainly puts you right in the thick of controlling your own destiny in the playoffs. But more importantly, as they get healthy, I just can't get out of my head what they did to that defense last night. Let's not get it twisted. The Vikings lost this game because they gave up 37 points. Like the Vikings, we'll talk about the quarterback situation in a second, but the Vikings defense is well regarded. And the Vikings defensive coordinator is considered to be one of the best in the league. And we keep looking at it and saying, no, the Vikings will be fine. The concept this year has been the Vikings will be fine. They just got to get some things figured out. The Vikings will be fine while they wait for JJ to get back. The Vikings will be fine while they wait for JJ to develop. All these things that we say about the Vikings. Well, last night what we saw is the Chargers are still the Chargers, right? Like, this is still a Harbaugh team. How does Harbaugh beat you? He beats you at the line of scrimmage. Now that he's got enough healthy bodies on each line of scrimmage to try to do that, he was capable of doing that. And once you have to sort of account for what they're doing to you at the line of scrimmage, once you have to account for the fact that they can run the football, now all of a sudden Justin Herbert has the chance to get great one-on-one matchups, which he took advantage of over and over and over again. Some of the meticulous passing by Justin Herbert, he was just on a different level last night. So we're looking at a Justin Herbert that comes into a Thursday night football game on fire with an offensive line, to your point, that's healthier, and they're able to keep him upright better with a running game that's clicking on all cylinders and a defense that's dominating. Like, this was always the recipe for how the Chargers intended to win football games. We just haven't gotten to see it much this year because everything's been so disjointed. Now, don't get it twisted. The Chargers still have injuries they're dealing with out there, and they did this. So for everyone that says, well, the Vikings are banged up, the Vikings have issues, so do the Chargers. The Chargers were so clearly last night a better football team than the Vikings. I think that part of it is a little bit stunning. Two teams that could have given you plenty excuses for a loss, and the Chargers came out and just whooped the snot out of them.
Yeah, and the Chargers got even more injured last night. Derwin James went out with an ankle injury. So it feels like once you finally get Joe Alt back, it's like two steps forward, one step back with this Chargers team. But last night, I think, was such a statement. You mentioned Justin Herbert. Well, he targeted five different receivers last night. And Quentin Johnson didn't even record a single catch. So you can look at that from either side of the coin and say, well, why wasn't Quentin Johnson involved in the game last night? We can talk about that all day long. I look at that and think, well, imagine how much more lethal and potent this passing game can be if and when Quentin Johnson gets involved, that the passing game was clicking on all cylinders so much so that Quentin Johnson didn't even need to get involved. So I almost look at that as like a net positive for this Chargers passing game and for Justin Herbert and the weapons that he has available to them. You bring up the Minnesota Vikings, though. And I think ever since JJ got hurt, or really going into the season, knowing that JJ McCarthy was going to be the starter, knowing that he was going to get his first looks as an NFL starter, that the offense was going to be up and down, that it was going to sputter at times, that JJ was going to make some of those rookie mistakes. I know he's not a rookie, but in my mind, he's a rookie since he was out the entirety of last season. But what was going to carry this team, at least for the most part, was that Brian Flores defense, that aggressive and nasty Brian Flores defense. Well, that aggressive and nasty Brian Flores defense did not show up last night. They gave up 37 points to the Chargers and 420 yards. That's not this Vikings defense that we were kind of all sold. And then you compound that with the fact that the Vikings offense feels absolutely positively broken. And that's where the quarterback conversation comes into play. It was really hard to watch Carson Wentz last night. And he got so banged up. He was so obviously hurt. Just like he looked just defeated every time he came out on the sidelines and every time he came to sit on the bench. It was really difficult to watch. And I think last night was probably proof to all of the conspiracy theorists out there that was saying that JJ McCarthy was getting soft benched, that, Kevin O'Connell thought they had a better chance to win with Carson Wentz, so they're just talking up this JJ McCarthy injury. No. I don't think anyone could have watched what Carson Wentz did last night and said that guy gives the Minnesota Vikings a better chance to win football games.
And the hardest part about it is there is absolutely zero tangible proof that JJ will fix anything. And this is what we do. Like with quarterback whisperer coaches, we turn in and we just presume that anybody can play quarterback. We did this in San Francisco where it's like, well, they don't need Brock. Anybody can step in. Well, not anybody, because there are certain lines in the sand where you realize you don't have a true starting quarterback. And the Minnesota sitting here with JJ McCarthy was supposed to discover what the potential looked like, but he hasn't been on the field. He can't stay on the field. And look, the high ankle sprain, I think we need to have a little grace and understanding. And if you do a little bit of research on what Minnesota's plan was, it was clear they wanted him to have a full week of practice. He wasn't able to get that in London because of the field conditions. He's still having some issues with the foot. They're being careful in bringing him back in a measured way. Those are all smart things long term. But we still today, right now, don't even know long term if JJ McCarthy is going to be any good. And if your answer is, well, Michigan, all right, he won a national championship at Michigan. I hear that. But there was nothing about that suddenly said, oh, this guy is absolutely can't miss. We see the ups and downs of every young quarterback, no matter what happens. So we haven't seen any of that in the pros because he can't stay on the field. So now if you're the Vikings, you've already picked up more losses this year than you had all of last season. All the Vikings fans in the world sat there and said, we don't need to worry about the quarterback position. We're going to be fine. You just watched what happens when you are flippant with understanding what the quarterback situation looked like. To me, it was always irresponsible to go in and say, we're going to put it all on JJ this year, because who knows with JJ? So the fact that they're stuck with Carson Wentz is part of the institutional problem of how they've attacked the quarterback position all the way back in April. They put themselves in a situation where they got JJ and nothing. And last night, nothing lost you a football game. And you just got to sit here and say, my God, even if everything goes normal, not great, everything goes normal for JJ, there's going to be ups and downs. He's going to win them some games. He's going to lose some games. And they're going to spend the rest of this season figuring out if they have the quarterback. Well, you know what that means, Caroline? That means they're probably, if that's the solution, going to miss the playoffs. So you went from 14 wins to not even making the playoffs because you want to figure out what you have at the quarterback position. That is so irresponsible to the window to win a Super Bowl. It drives me crazy. It's why I haven't liked the Vikings approach, as you know, for the quarterback position for this entire process, and I don't feel better about it today.
Yeah, enough with the he won a national championship in college thing, so he must be good. You know who else won a national championship in college? Tua. And Miami can't get away from Tua fast enough. You know who else won a national championship? Mac Jones. You know who else won a national championship? Deshaun Watson. Two of those three are backups. So let's not act like success in college automatically equals success in the NFL. And I do understand the process, the slow burn that they're trying to bring JJ McCarthy along with, but we're in year 2. And we've seen what? Through 2 years of JJ McCarthy's NFL career, 7 quarters of football. Injuries are incredibly unfortunate. You can't control them. It's just a really sucky part of this game that injuries sometimes get in the way of the success of certain players, the development of certain players. But I think it's fair to wonder, and I think it's fair to question what JJ McCarthy's future in the NFL is going to be if he can't get on the football field. I don't care if your coach is an offensive genius or not. If you can't get on the football field, you're not going to be able to progress, to develop, and to get better. And I do have to wonder, Fitz, I look at Sam Darnold in Seattle. Seattle's now 5-2. We've had some serious conversations about Seattle being, not just a playoff contender, but is Seattle a Super Bowl contender? And we talked with Frank not too long ago, and Frank said, yeah, the Seahawks could be in contention for the number 1 team in the NFL. I know that KOC has more knowledge of quarterbacking in his pinky than I will ever have in my whole entire body. But do you not think that maybe KOC's waking up this morning saying, I made a mistake. I made a mistake moving on from Sam Darnold.
I feel like Vikings fans right now will scream, you know what? It doesn't matter because all he would do is choke in the playoffs. To which I will remind you, Vikings fans, on the trajectory you're on right now, you're not going to get to the playoffs. So what's it matter? You know what's worse than throwing picks in a playoff game? Not even getting to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right now, this Vikings team doesn't look like a playoff team at all. So have fun watching your former quarterback throw whatever games he throws in the playoffs, however he plays in the playoffs, because right now it looks like the closest the Vikings are getting to the playoffs is if they play it in a video game.